Welcome back to the Ranch It Up Radio Show, the most information packed into a 30-minute program that you can find. It's your all things ranching newscast, and so glad to be hanging out with you all. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, rants, it doesn't matter. You can text or call. That phone number is 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. Our email, ranchitupshow@gmail.com, and prowling around social media at Ranch It Up Show. Well, breeding season is in full swing, so I have this question. Are you implanting your calves? If you aren't and you want to enroll those calves in an NHTC all-natural program, are you getting those calves enrolled before they leave the ranch come fall? So today, let's talk the ins and outs of implants, costs, benefits, advantages, disadvantages, etc. Dr. Brandon Nuttelman is a beef cattle technical services manager for Merck Animal Health. Brandon, thanks for coming on the program today. Are implants being used more today than in years back? Let's just start there.
The incentive to use implants is definitely increased because implants continue to give us more and more body weight. And obviously, as prices increase, the value of that implant continues to increase. But we don't charge more for the implant. So, like today we're looking at like a calf foot implant costs you, $2, $2.50 to give it. And it's going to give you back 75. So the incentive, the ROI is just increased dramatically the last 20, 30 years because of the increase in prices. Cattle still grow the same way that they always have, and the implants still work the same way, but just the value of the extra pounds we get is substantially greater. And so people should really be looking into it more today than they were 10 years ago because of the prices. But it doesn't seem like they are because they're kind of stuck in their routine, I would say.
So when you say stuck in their routine, is it more of the guys that are looking at trying to put the stamp on those calves as all natural? NHTC?
Yep. So that's a great, and right now, I guess I'm thinking more in the cow-calf sector. Is that kind of where you're thinking as well?
Yep, feeder calf side. Yeah, I'm talking feeder calves.
Yep. And I think there's a big misunderstanding with what people think they're eligible for, what producers think that they're eligible for as far as premiums go. And so if we take whichever database you want to take of livestock sales, of calves coming off the cow or weaned calves going through the barn or the online auctions, Superior Livestock, we pay for that data and we summarize that data on an annual basis. And we've done that for 10, 15 years now. And so if you compare the price paid for an implanted calf compared to a non-implanted calf, there's absolutely no difference. There never has been a difference. Now, we're talking about conventional cattle, a 6-weight steer that was implanted versus a 6-weight steer that was not implanted. Now, if we start talking about program cattle, like all naturals or some NHTC program, there are premiums for those types of cattle. But I think where people really get confused or maybe drop the ball is that every one of those programs that I am aware of, those cattle have to have the paperwork in place before the calves leave the ranch. Otherwise, they're not even eligible to go into those programs when the next guy buys them. And so just because they raise those calves all natural, meet all of the standards, if they don't have the paperwork that goes with the calves, they're not even eligible for those premiums. And so people that check the box at the at the sale barn and say, my calves are not implanted. Well, just because they're not implanted doesn't mean that they're eligible for an NHTC program. So more than likely, they're not even getting a premium for them. And so just to kind of finish that thought, if I can, if people are going to choose not to implant their calves before they sell them, they need to make sure that they have all the paperwork in place so they're eligible for a premium program.
And that's kind of where I was going to ask you that was in a lot of these programs, and you know that I am a big believer in having these value-add programs. You know that. You've known me for a while. You've heard everything that I've been talking about. I am a big believer in having options that fit your program and having these other value add potential programs where, and I think I said the key word potential there because it's perceived value, right? Where we're
Absolutely.
hoping that by doing certain management practices, that kind of goes down the line and we are rewarded back for doing certain different practices. So really, when it comes to just the conversation of to implant or not implant in regards to a value added program, you hit the nail on the head there where a person needs to dive just a tick deeper to make sure that if that's what you want to do and that's what fits your outfit, I know, Doc, you're going to say, great, go down that road and capture as much dollars as you can that fits for you, but make darn sure that you have everything in place before you start marketing those calves, because it isn't like you said, you go to the sale barn and you take a little check, or you have a country buyer and you say this is what it is, and they start peeling out $100 bills.
Yes, absolutely. I believe in implants as a technology. I think they're extremely beneficial for the industry, for the environment, for the consumers, because it gives us high quality beef at a cheaper price. But there are programs out there that reward people for not using them. And I think when I am giving talks to producers or I'm at their ranch and we're having this conversation, where I'm representing implants with the company that I work for, I probably spend more time talking to them about the non-implant programs.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's what happens.
If you want to do this, let's make sure you're going to do it correctly. I mean, ultimately, my goal within my position at Merck Animal Health is to help the producer have all the information that they need so they can make the choice to make the best decision for their operation. And that's going to be different at every operation out there. So
your recommendation on implanting those stockers that are just going to grass, yay or nay?
Absolutely. With today, the products that we have today, to me, it's really hard for a producer to make that decision not to implant those stockers going to grass. I mean, they're going to give us consistently a 10 to 15% improvement in daily gain. And so what I mean by that is if you're in some rough country and cattle are only gaining 1 pound a day, which hopefully they don't ever do that. But if you implant those cattle that were gaining 1 pound a day, they're going to gain 1.15 a day. So 15% more. But say you're down in the Flint Hills and those cattle can gain 3 pounds naturally, and you implant them, they're going to gain 3.45. So you're going to get 0.45, almost half a pound more per day with that implant. So it's always about that percent response. And so I like to bring that up because the amount of weight that can be captured in that short amount of time when those cattle are out grazing is substantial and can really help with the bottom line and the profitability of that stocker operation. But it's also important where, especially like in a year like this where areas are getting dry, might not have the grass out there, the groceries. It's not like these implants are designed to wreck these cattle if they don't have enough nutrients. They're designed to benefit the animal and the environment that they're in. Now, if you go and take a feedlot implant, put it in a stocker animal, you might have some negative effects. But if you're using the implants that are approved for those animals in that specific sector of the industry, like make sure you use the cow-calf implant if you're going to brand or implant at branding time. Make sure you use an approved stocker implant when you're going to grass. And then once they get to the feedlot, use a feedlot implant. And so these implants are designed specifically for that animal at that specific stage of the production that they're in.
Doc, have you got any documentation? Because at the beginning of this conversation, we were saying of what the cost of $2 to $2.50 a head versus the potential gain that you can get. Let's take that conservative number. If we take that even down to, let's say, like $70 or $65 of potential premium of being captured for those calves just based on performance of weight is what I'm talking. And we compare that to the exact same situation in an all-natural program, not bashing those, just comparing numbers to numbers. Math is universal and doesn't lie. Do you know what some of those potential premiums are on a per pound or per hundredweight basis on an NHTC?
The data that I would go to would be like the superior livestock data that was summarized. And so that premium on those calves is $3.56 per hundredweight. And so if it's a 6-weight steer and you're getting $3.50 per hundredweight premium, you're looking at $21, $22 a head return. So yes, there is a premium there. But then if you contrast that to the 20 pounds, conservative number of 20 pounds extra weaning weight you would get with an implant, you take $20 times, I don't know, whatever high number you want to pick in today's market.
Right. The key is whatever high number, right?
Yep. I mean, so, right now, if it's a 380, I don't know where, again, you can pick whatever number you want, but 380 at 20 pounds of increased weaning weight, you're looking at 76. So even if you knock that back, like you said, to 60, you're still $60 more just because you sold more weight and versus the premium. Now, one thing that I think people look at, like on these program cattle, is a lot of times when these cattle come through, they're big, fancy type cattle. A lot of genetics in there. There's 2 or 3 loads of them. All black-hided steers, or a very uniform set of cattle. Well, we also know that load lots sell for more. Uniform cattle sell for more. Progressive genetics sells for more. And so when they look at the price that those calves bring that were also NHTC, they think, man, that set of cattle that were NHTC sold extremely high. They sold $10 over the market. But in reality, when we have so we send these superior data to Kansas State University to break it down. And so that's where they're able to break down the fact that those cattle brought $10 more than the market, but $3.50 of that is from the NHTC. $3 is from the progressive genetics, $2 or whatever that number is from the load lot size. And so that's why we come up with this $3.56 per hundredweight on these NHTC cattle. And so now sometimes these premiums will be or can be more than what the added weight is. But again, that's where, like with my job, I just try to provide the information to the rancher so they can do the math and they can make the calculations in the market environment that they're in. And some people might have better contracts with a certain program. Mm-hmm. And so again, I don't ever ask for those individual producers' programs, right? And I just make sure they have the weight information so they can do the math on their own, and we walk through it, right? But if they have a special contract with somebody, they might be getting more than $3.50 a hundredweight premium. I don't know. So that's just the math that the producers have to do when making decisions to determine which one will generate more revenue.
Dr. Brandon Nuttelman with Merck Animal Health, thanks for coming on the program with us. Lots more discussion we can have on implants, and you can fire your questions my direction, and I will pass them along to Brandon, and we can keep this conversation going. Email me at ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Call or text 707-RANCH-20, 707-726-2420. Time for a break. When we come back, we head to the numbers, recapping the markets. Stay with us. Crew, you're listening to the Ranch It Up radio show.